high school bullies, an uneasy time in the spotlight, and an obsession with body ink. For nearly 20 years, David Bromstad has been a constant presence on HGTV, but even his most diehard fans don't know the whole story. Soon after graduating from Florida's Ringling College of Art and Design with a degree in illustration, David Bromstad landed a job at the company he dreamed of working for, Disney. Unfortunately, it wasn't a position within their animation team, which had been his goal, but instead as a visual merchandiser role at one of their many retail outlets. Luckily, Bromstad's boss recognized that his talents were being wasted and encouraged him to apply for a sculpting position elsewhere within the Mouse House empire. Bromstad then spent 18 months at Orlando's Walt Disney World, learning how to perfect the art of sanding before becoming a contractor. Bromstad may have been gifted an SUV and the opportunity to become a HGTV regular when he won the first season of Design Star, but he sure had to suffer for his art. Well, if you count the lack of a cell phone as suffering, that is. Bromstad certainly does, having often compared his experience on the 2006 season to a boot camp. Not only did they confiscate contestants' communication devices, but they also banned them from watching television, reading newspapers, and listening to the radio. Why the network felt they had to resort to such drastic measures is unclear, but the former Disney employee is now quite glad that they did. Bromstad told Design Blog, "But taking all of that stuff away from you makes you really focus on what you're there to do. And really, it was one of the best things I've ever done. I loved it so much."
And if this show didn't happen, then I don't know where I would be.
Bromstad swiftly avoided the need to make any grand statements about his sexuality during his stint on Design Star when, after being asked by a fellow contestant if he was gay, he answered in the affirmative. And in a sign of the more enlightening times, HGTV didn't push him back into the closet after his victory either. Speaking to Room Fu several years later, Bromstad revealed that his new workplace had actively encouraged him to be as gay as he liked in the wake of his talent show success. While noting how the first job they gave him was a hosting gig for an Out magazine party, he told the outlet, "That just set the tone right there. It was like, please be yourself. We love you for who you are and never want you to hide yourself." Bromstad went on to add that he felt instantly accepted by HGTV as a result, and he was able to show his support for the rest of the LGBTQ community too. But he's also determined not to let his sexuality define him. He told Room Fu, "I'm a designer and an artist, and I just happen to like boys. It's not the other way around. I'm not some flaming queen, and I'm not the butchest thing in the world either. I'm kind of teetering on this little ledge of fabulousness that people seem to really enjoy."
I can't express how much I love my community.
Anyone who follows Bromstad's Instagram page will already know that the interior designer is one of HGTV's most heavily tattooed stars. In fact, the Design Star winner intends to cover at least 40% of his entire body with ink in the near future. In an interview with Hart and Huntington Orlando, Bromstad revealed that his obsession with tattoos started when he was in high school. Unsurprisingly, it wasn't one shared by his Christian parents, who told him that if he ever made a trip to his nearest parlor, he'd have to financially fend for himself. Bromstad did take heed of such a warning, waiting until after he graduated Florida's Ringling College of Art and Design before getting his first tat. But he soon made up for lost time when he relocated to Orlando, adding everything from a scratch and sniff sticker to his own personal favorite, Mickey Mouse. While showing off his tatted limbs, the star wrote in an Instagram caption, "My tattoo addiction is shining bright with a rainbow of delicious colors. It symbolizes so much for me. The gay flag, my love for color, my first TV series, Color Splash, freedom, and it's just plain happy. I encourage you all to embrace the core of who you are." Bromstad certainly isn't shy about showing off his body on social media, whether it's uploading a sweaty post-workout pic or debuting the results of his latest trip to the tattoo parlor. But would the buff interior designer be such a fitness enthusiast if he wasn't an HGTV regular? Well, probably not. In an interview with the now defunct Fit Celeb, Bromstad admitted that regularly being beamed into people's homes provides an extra level of motivation for staying in shape. But the Minnesota native has also insisted that he doesn't hit the gym at least 3 times a week, solely for aesthetic purposes. He told Chicagoist, "You know, if I go a week without working out, it is really hard for me because 1, I am exhausted, and 2, my creativity is lost. Having that feeling of being physically fit, it's not even about whether or not I look fit. It's more about confidence and feeling good about myself." After winning Design Star in 2006, Bromstad was transformed from a complete unknown to one of HGTV's most famous faces. Since then, he's become a staple of the channel, lending his talents to everything from My Lottery Dream Home to Design Star All-Stars. But years after he was catapulted into the spotlight, the interior designer was still getting used to the idea of fame. He told Room Fu in 2012, "You're walking down the street and people are like, 'David.' I'm like, 'Really? You know who I am?'" Bromstad claimed that initially only the LGBTQ community and older women were familiar with his work, but that his shows have since developed a much more diverse following. He went on to add, "That is so bizarre and so fantastic and a great perk. Everyone is so happy to see me. It gives me tons of confidence. It's so lovely, but it's so strange."
I'm blessed beyond words.
So does this constant level of recognition make Bromstad a little self-conscious whenever he's out and about? Luckily, not so much. But he does acknowledge that there are times on his travels, particularly when he's forgotten his razor, that he longs for the days of anonymity. Referring to one such occasion at an airport, he recalled, "I was unshaven and my hair was all messy, and before taking pictures with people I had to be like, oh well, whatever, you'll get to see the real side of me. Granted, I don't really want people to see that side, but..." Unlike many of his scandal-hit HGTV colleagues, Bromstad had managed to avoid any major controversy in the decade after winning Design Star, but that all changed in 2016 when news emerged that the openly gay star was hosting an event for an organization whose attitudes toward the LGBTQ community left a lot to be desired. Bromstad came under fire when he agreed to work at a fundraiser for the Salvation Army at Fort Lauderdale's Red Shield redesign bash. As a result, hundreds of disgruntled Facebook followers took to the comments to point out his hypocrisy since the Salvation Army position statement, which has since been deleted, forbids sexual intimacy between members of the same sex. Bromstad refused to apologize for aligning himself with the organization, however. Addressing his critics on Facebook, he wrote, "If we simply separate ourselves from those that we assume oppose us or our beliefs, then we will never make strides in the right direction. I applaud the Salvation Army's symbolic handshake towards acceptance and would be foolish to not extend my hand in acceptance." Bromstad also later accepted that his response wouldn't be satisfactory to some, but that he was okay with that. It's fair to say that Bromstad didn't have an easy time of it during his junior high years. The HGTV regular even shared that he was taunted during one particular lunch break by not only the entirety of his fellow 600 students, but by the school's principal too. Bromstad acknowledges that the latter may have been too interested in looking cool to understand exactly what he was joining in with, but nevertheless, the scars still ran deep. Luckily, however, he is now able to see that he had the last laugh. He told Passport magazine, "The dork, dweeb, nerd, the unique, those are the people who rule the world." The interior designer has also drawn upon his own harrowing childhood experiences to help others. He said in a 2013 statement, "I was bullied and harassed continually through high school, and I know what hell that can be." Bromstad's good guy reputation took a bit of a hit in 2015 when his former boyfriend of 11 years, Jeffrey Glasgow, made several damaging allegations in a bitter legal battle. Glasgow sued Bromstad for breaching a verbal cohabitation agreement relating to the condo they used to live together in. Glasgow also alleged that the HGTV star's apparent sex and drug addiction had impacted both his finances and his mental health. But Glasgow wasn't done there. In his revised complaint, he claimed that his ex had used shared funds to pay for both sex workers and illegal substances. Bromstad's lawyer denied the allegations, telling In Touch Weekly, "These salacious claims were made by a desperate person." The judge appeared to agree, once again throwing out the allegations before dismissing Glasgow's contract breach claim altogether. While coasting to victory on the first season of Design Star, Bromstad also had to deal with some family trauma. At the time, his beloved dad, Richard, was battling cancer. Luckily, he pulled through, but 10 years later, the interior designer revealed that his father had been dealt another major health blow. In 2016, David shared that Richard had been admitted to the hospital over concerns about his heart. He told his Facebook followers, "His valves are freaking out and is having major fluttering. His resting heart rate was at 136, which is very high. They are monitoring him for seizures and a heart attack." The Color Splash host didn't seem too optimistic about his father's chances of survival, asking his fans to keep him in their prayers. Thankfully, Richard defied the odds and made a full recovery. Since then, David has continually taken to Instagram to tell the world how much his dad means to him. For Father's Day 2018, he captioned a snap of the pair, "My hero, best friend, and inspiration. Oh, and the guy who taught me goofy facial expressions." Alongside another photo 3 years later, David wrote, "Thank you for teaching me to be compassionate, kind, confident, and of course, silly."
My favorite word is family.
Bromstad has claimed he doesn't play the same game that helped his My Lottery Dream Home clients win a fortune because he's not particularly lucky. But according to reports, he's already risen to multi-millionaire status thanks to his numerous hit shows as an HGTV host. Yes, Bromstad apparently has $2 million in his bank account, an impressive figure that has been accrued through things like sponsorship deals, as well as gigs on shows such as Color Splash. So where does that put him on the network's rich list? Well, he's allegedly HGTV's 14th wealthiest star. While Bromstad may be able to creep closer toward the top 10 in the near future, he has one almighty job on his hands to move past the network's richest, Drew and Jonathan Scott, aka the Property Brothers. The brothers have amassed a colossal fortune of $200 million.